Shalom everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're up to page 330 of volume 2 of Rabbi Victor Miller's new translation and commentary of Duties of the Mind, and we are in part 19 of chapter 5 entitled The Luminaries of the Sky. This is Shah HaBekina, the Gate of Examining, and I just wanted to go back and have a look at the overall title of this particular subject. So I thought to myself, well, hang on, if we're at chapter 5 and we're at part 19 of chapter 5, what are we looking at again? And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Jason, you're meant to be telling us that. You're the one reading from this book and, you know, giving us gleanings, and that's true. But every now and then, even I have to go back and just double check. Hang on, what is the overall thrust of what we're getting at here? And it's all the way back on page 175, and it's entitled "Which Reflection is Most Accessible?" And it's talking about, out of all the things that we see around us, ourselves, the environment, what are the things that tell us about Hashem's greatness and give us insights into his mind. It's as if somebody has just constructed a complex, really beautiful and detailed thing, and they've just freshly walked away, and we've come in and we've seen what it is that they've created, and that gives us so much of an insight as to who they are, even though they themselves have just left. And we do this when we see illustrations, when we see people, and I speak mostly regarding illustrations because I think painting definitely gives you a sense of the persona of the one who executed the painting, but more so actual illustration with a pencil or some sort of pen. That I think gives far more clarity because you can see the strokes, whereas with a painting, sometimes the actual application of what is presented in front of you isn't so obvious. And the same too is in some cases with illustrations, depending on what type of style the illustration is, if it's photoreal or something like that. But I think if you're looking at somebody who is a loose illustrator, that can give you a really big insight as to who that person is and what they are and what they're about, even to the point where you might not even be able to put it into words, but you can get a really good feel for that person in terms of who they are by looking at the illustration that they've drawn. And the same too is with the Creator when we look around at us. And so that's the overarching subject. That's what we're looking at. That's the topic of what we're looking at. And every now and then I think it's important to actually go back and just sort of be reminded. And I just think it's fascinating that, you know, it's like we're on the same topic since page 175 and we're now up to page 330, and I just think that's fascinating. And, you know, as far as I can see, it's going to keep going for a little while yet. So this is really cool. Okay, so Luminaries of the Sky, you can probably guess where this one is going. So we've got a little note here before we actually get into the commentary. Here begins a section that we will translate, even though it is limited by the knowledge of astronomy that existed in the author's time. Remember, this is based on a work, the Kivot HaLevavot, which was written in Spain 1,000 years ago. And so what we know about astronomy and the stars and the cosmos now compared to 1,000 years ago is considerably far greater. The author used all the knowledge available to him for the purpose of Bekina, of examining, of reflecting. Additional discoveries that have been made in recent years give us all the more reason to be excited over the wisdom of Hashem. Okay, so let's get into it. And so too, when one studies the course of heavenly spheres that have different characteristics with various movements, observing their differing speeds and directions, and one studies the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and the stars, that also have different characteristics that function together to arrange the affairs of the entire universe, one will see signs of power and wisdom that are so extensive that they are beyond the capacity of the human mind, and one would be wearied describing them with the tongue. There are so many signs that the tongue would wear out trying to speak about them. That's pretty amazing to think that there are so many things out there in the cosmos that you can't cover them all in a lifetime. The scope of the heavenly bodies and their movements is so great that the human mind cannot grasp it all. That is even more true today when we know of the many wonders that the author was not aware of. And in many ways, the human mind is a limitation that has been imbued with a form of spiritual amnesia. And so this is why we can't remember anything until we came into the world. And even then, remembering all the way back to our birth is, most people can't remember that far. Most people can't remember their own birth, although I have met some people that said that they can. And so because we're sort of imbued with this spiritual amnesia, it's very difficult for us to be able to absorb and fathom things that are beyond ourselves to a certain extent, mainly down to this limitation. And we're all in this world inhabiting it in various degrees of limitation. This is as David Amelech said, and this is quoting Psalm 19:2, "The skies declare the glory of Hashem, and the firmament tells of the work of his hands," end of quote. This is an indication of what we should do. We need to study the wonders of the skies according to our present knowledge. Alas, the universities and the colleges and the different institutions and halls of academia have all but hijacked this sphere of understanding, this whole area, and they have wrestled it away from the Creator. And they look at it in isolation, in this kind of sort of dark and cold, sort of unending churning machine. The rest of the Mizmor, the psalm, continues with this theme, and he also says, and this is quoting Psalm 8:4, "When I see your skies, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have established." So when the atheist looks up at the same things, they just see something that is an anomaly. They see something with no rhyme nor reason. They do see patterns in nature. They do see everything that everyone else sees, but they don't allow that to attribute to anything. They don't allow that to attribute to anything of purpose. They just see it as something that is there, and it has no rhyme nor no reason. Just enjoy it while it's there. Enjoy it while it's there, and then move on. It's interesting because, a lot of atheists don't have children. Not all of them, but many people who are serious atheists who really pride themselves, they get into it a little bit beyond the norm. In most cases, these are people that also don't have kids. They're not interested in children. One of the most impressive sights that the human eye can behold among the great creations of the Creator, may be exalted, is the sky. Wherever on earth a person stands, he sees half of the sphere that surrounds the world. The skies appear to be half a circle overhead, no matter where he stands. And when a person looks at it thoughtfully with his intention of examining its wisdom, he will see that the one who created it by his will is infinite in power, wisdom, and greatness. When we look at any of the architectural works of the ancients, like the pyramids or the great towers of Babylonia, we are amazed at their ability to do such things. It teaches us how physically strong they are, and how physically strong they were, and how brilliant they were to make such mighty fortresses to protect themselves. Now, if we are impressed by such a relatively puny and insignificant work, which is only slightly better than our constructions, then how much more so should we be in wonderment of the one who created the heaven and the earth? The luminaries of the sky are things for which there are no models in our own experience, and all of that is within them is achieved without effort or exertion, without fatigue or toil, out of nothing and on nothing. The sun, the moon, and the stars don't stand on anything else, nor are they dependent on anything else. They stand in space with nothing holding them up. And they were created by his will alone, as it is written, by the word of Hashem were the heavens made. And it's quoting again from Psalm 33:6. By the word of Hashem were the heavens made, and all their hosts were created by the breath of his mouth. That is, by his words. Sorry, I should finish the actual verse before I give you the address. This completes the topic of heavenly bodies. Even though we understand some of these ideas entirely differently, we understand that bodies in space don't fall in the conventional sense because the pull of gravity is balanced by the energy resulting from their tangential sideways speed relative to the body around which they are orbiting. That exquisite balance which the Creator has established results in the orbital motion we perceive. Our knowledge of the forces acting on bodies in space is far more extensive and subtle than was available to the author. With our current understanding, we see that this phenomena are 100,000 times more wonderful than what the ancients thought. The author is following his approach that as much as possible we are obligated to discover demonstrations of three types of signs in the Bria, that is the creation. These are the wisdom of Hashem, number one, and number two, the power of Hashem, and number three, the chesed, the kindness of Hashem. The signs of his wisdom, the signs of the wisdom of Hashem, the kokmat Hashem, include evidence of the plan and purpose behind the Bria, the creation, and indications pointing to how things are made with ingenuity and design. These signs of Kokma Hashem are testimony to the presence of Hashem as Borei, as the creator, because whatever is done with a design needs a designer. If anyone takes a walk in the woods and sees a simple hut, he would never believe that it was built by chance, that the wind blew pieces of wood together. Even 1,000,000 years would not be enough for such a coincidental occurrence. He would instinctively recognize the presence of the hut in the woods as a sign of intelligence. When we see that the world is filled with the infinite number of things that are far more complex than a simple hut, we understand their purpose is to testify to the Creator. The magnitude and complexity of created things testifies to the Givorat Hashem, the power or the greatness and the might of Hashem. In fact, all the Bria testifies to the Borei, as we say in Tefillah, in the Tefillah of Ashrei, all your works praise you, Hashem. And that's a quote from one of the daily prayers that are said by Orthodox Jews. All your works praise you, Hashem, and the purpose is to make known to man his might. To fulfill this purpose of the Bria, we have to study the Bria constantly. We should never say, I already know that Hashem created the world. I don't need to keep studying it. I'm a mamin, a believer. Without that, we need to continually increase our emunah, hushit, our belief that is built on physical sensory perception. And this is what a lot of people, I think, don't understand, is that a person says, yep, I believe in God. I believe he created everything, and I'm sold on that. I don't need to do anything else to bolster that position. I'm rock solid on that position. The only problem is, if you don't now make it a purpose in your life to enlighten yourself as to the works of creation as much as you can every day, that is going to be a very loose belief. That is going to be a belief that you're holding casually. Now, you may say it with some force and some vigor, but a slight rattle of your cage will see it dropped fairly easily. And we sort of kid ourselves. We go, yeah, we love you, Hashem. We think you're amazing. I believe in God. But even so, when we walk, an hour, not even a day with somebody like this, we see that their actions begin to go against what it is they profess to believe in terms of their sort of overarching ideology. Because you can see that the way they're sort of operating is kind of, I'll do this, and I won't involve Hashem in this, but I do believe in Hashem, but I'll just kind of leave him over there. I'll keep him over there, and I'll just do this over here. But in these other things, I'll kind of be okay with having him there. But over here, no, not so much. And so we tend to build sort of a compartmentalized life. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to be going off in different directions, posturing ourselves in one way when, we know that that's not what we should be doing. We want to be echad. We want to be all unified. We want to have our mind come along with us for the ride with our emotions. We don't want to leave our mind at the door while our emotions are allowed to sort of have their way, if that makes any sense. If a person has the opportunity to see the wonders of Hashem's creation with his own eyes and he doesn't want to do it, he's revealing that he is lazy in avodat Hashem. He's lazy in serving Hashem. The same is true if he says, I have emunah, peshuta, I have simple faith, I don't need any evidence. And this is one of the lines that people will say. They'll say, listen, I just prefer to stay in shallow waters. Don't accept that, because that's not a valid walk to deliberately keep the thing that you professed to love and believe in kept in kindergarten, kept in like preschool, kept in, you keep it in the kind of the basic element. You're never allowing that to mature and to come with you as an adult. You're keeping it in this little kind of, really kind of like, this is just for sort of a kid afternoon, like I'll share this with my kids. I'll tell my kids I believe in God, and I do believe in God, but over here when my kids aren't watching, I'll do things that I don't want my kids to do or see. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of, you're keeping Hashem in this room or a couple of rooms. You're not bringing him into all your rooms, so to speak. The third dimension that we are obligated to study are the signs of the kindnesses of Hashem, the Chesed Hashem. The word is full of Chesed Hashem. Not only is Hashem the Borei, but he created the world of kindness, as it says, quoting Psalm 89:3, the world is built on kindness, end of quote. Wherever we look, we see that Hashem made things for the purpose of kindness. We don't always understand this immediately, but ultimately the kindness becomes visible. Imagine walking into a big bakery where we see all kinds of machinery for the purpose of baking bread. However, there may be one or two machines whose purpose we don't understand. Nevertheless, we understand that they are most likely also for the purpose of making bread. And even though we don't understand it, we accept that the fault lies in our own lack of knowledge. The trust that we trust in somebody that we will discover why these are also necessary. Oh, let me read that again, sorry. We trust that somebody, I'm still reading it wrong. We trust that someday we will discover why these are also necessary, and so everything in the world is for the purpose of chesed. It is because of these three qualities, Chokhmat Hashem, that is the wisdom of Hashem, Givorat Hashem, that is the might of Hashem, and Hesed Hashem, that is the kindness of Hashem, that we say, this is a prayer that's normally done on the Sabbath, his greatness and his kindness fill the world. His greatness is a reference to his Chokhmah, his wisdom, and his power and his kindness. Where do we see his greatness and his kindness? Everywhere. Everywhere. That is, the whole world is filled with signs. The whole world is filled with signs. And this is what makes somebody who believes in God, believes in a creator, believes that he has an intimate connection with that creation, as opposed to the atheist who also believes that there is a physical world here, a creation here, a world that works with some sort of order and cohesion to allow mankind to live and flourish on the earth and to gaze out into the vast cosmos of space and to explore, but at the same time cuts the head off that journey and just completely debilitates himself in terms of the essence of anything. I don't know how an atheist enjoys one full day of their lives. I mean, I'm sure they can do it, but it's only they only have the ability to do it if they suspend the imminent nature of their eventual departure of the world from the world, because they don't believe in anything. They don't believe that there's any purpose. They don't believe that there's any reward or punishment. They don't believe that anyone cares whether they do something good or bad. And they often will say, this is why when we do something good, we're more righteous than somebody who believes in God, because we're doing good despite having a belief that we're going to be rewarded or punished, which is absolute bupkis. It's absolute nonsense. That's not true at all. This is just them trying to show that they have a greater mercy than the people that are believing in a God, that are surrendering to a God, and are showing humility to a God. You know, somebody who looks around at them, and if somebody says, do you think you could create what you're seeing all around you right now? Do you think you could make all that? The person would have to say no. So whatever did this is far superior to me. Whatever it is, it's just complete and utter lunacy. And it's continuing to grow, and it will continue to grow until on the heels of the arrival of Mashiach. I think we'll leave it there. That takes us to page 334. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, Hashem willing. Oh, hang on, before we go, what's the secret word? The secret word is signs. The secret word is signs. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.